brought to you by Mint Mobile. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Thursday, December 5, 2024, and I'm in New York City today with the lovely Rebecca Isaacs.
Hi.
How are you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great. We are doing a bunch of pre-briefs for CES, but that's not what we're going to talk about today, because we are talking, actually, it's rare that I focus, I looked at the topics, it's rare that I focus this much on XR, VR, and AR. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about.
Oh my gosh, so much to talk about. There's been so many new launches, and I'm so excited for them.
It's been pretty great. So, the first thing I think that I want to talk with you about is like the Xreal One that was just announced this week. So I don't know if you're familiar with their product. I have their previous generation product. Didn't bring it with me, unfortunately, because this news kind of rolled out while I was on the plane. If it had rolled out just before, I would have grabbed them to take them with you to show you guys. I've had the Beam Pro and the base Xreal glasses for a few weeks, maybe a couple of months now. And the problem for me right now is I can't really evaluate them there well because I need to get the prescription inserts.
Yes.
So, but overall, even putting them on top of my glasses, I was very impressed. They're like pretty high res. They don't, the refresh rate is high, so you don't get tired. And the gimmick, if you want to call it that, it's not really a gimmick, but the feature they have is that the Beam Pro is like a smartphone without cellular.
Really?
Yeah, that has two USB-C ports on it. So it takes the output from any device you're using and pipes it through that thing, and then gives you a full Android experience on that. And then it lets you use it as a gesture control pad.
Oh, wow.
And it powers the glasses and sends the signal to the glasses. So you can either plug them directly into a device, but then you don't get any of the things where, like, if your screen follows you because it's just a display in your eye, or you plug them in the Beam, and the Beam device lets you like position a screen in space, and it stays there, like pin it.
Okay, so
right?
I have a question about that. So obviously they can do the display, but what size does it get to? Out of curiosity,
I can't remember the specs, but like Xreal is the most competitive product out there right now. So I assume it's really good. But, again, there's no smarts in the glasses. It's just a display and some sensors, right? But the Beam Pro, basically, you can use it as a phone, a Wi-Fi phone, basically, kind of like the Boox Palma. But it's not e-ink. It's a totally normal. It's only like $200. It's like a low end or mid range or whatever budget smartphone, essentially, in terms of specs. But it has stereo cameras, so it lets you take stereo photos and stereo video that you can then watch on the glasses and get that Vision Pro thing, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a blend of like the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, like meets the Meta Quest 3.
But it doesn't have a camera. Like the glasses don't have a camera at all. But the cameras are on the Beam, right? So like you if you are like in town here and you go to like Times Square and you want to take 3D photos, you don't even have the glasses. You just take the photos with the Beam. And then the Beam, you can install, it's Android, so you can install Netflix on it. So now you're offloading from your phone. You don't need your phone to be the power, the battery, and the content supplier for your glasses.
Okay.
But if you want to, you can project the content of your phone directly to the glasses or through the Beam to the glasses. And if you go through the Beam, you can set them in space. You can have like the Beam's display here, the phone's display there. And then the UI is using your finger on the Beam's touchscreen.
That's incredible, because you can basically use it as a multitasking powerhouse then, especially if you're like on the go working, or maybe you want to like put Netflix on one screen and game on the other.
So the Beam Pro is the second gen Beam. The first Beam was just a battery pack. Mm-hmm. Basically, it had two USB ports. You fed your phone into it. You had an output. It had a battery in it, so it powered the glasses without killing your phone. And then it had, I think, like basic controls on it, so you can navigate. But now they've gone crazy and put Android on it and put a display on it, put cameras in the back. So that's where we're at. Now, that's not what they announced this week. What they announced this week is Beam is a separate product that augments the Xreal ecosystem. Xreal now has a pair of lighter, thinner, more sexy glasses, both in regular and Pro versions. The previous Xreals I have are the regular, not the Pro, but now there's an Xreal One and an Xreal One Pro. I haven't seen them, but from the specs they sent and stuff. Lighter, thinner, less bulky, generally better. But they don't add anything new in terms of like a quality of the display or anything as far as that.
No, the only thing that they talked about was it's like got a 20.7% larger display.
Yeah.
But like in general, it seems to be very similar to its predecessor.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's interesting, they don't talk about in this Verge article, but I'll try to find another article to put in the show notes. There is now a Beam Eye accessory that mounts on the glasses as a single camera. Like it's mounted right below your nose piece. And so it lets you turn it into a Meta.
The Ray-Ban Metas.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have a really silly question here. So, like, taking into consideration that, does it like jet out, or is it just like a small attachment?
I haven't found a picture of it. It looks really small, and the system that they have for mounting the prescription insert and adjusting the nose piece is where it attaches, and there's contacts there. So this was planned, obviously.
Oh, that is
so it's very modular. So you basically can go like, it's just the glasses, it's just the display. Plug your MacBook into it, plug your, Pixel, your iPhone, whatever into it, and boom. And wherever you look, you see your display. So the ones I have are the Xreal Air 2, the second generation Air, which were until now their lighter, thinnest ones. And then the Air Pro as well, which I don't have. And I don't know what the Pro had. I think they had more sensors. But what's really interesting to me is like basically it used to be if you wanted to get some kind of high quality vision wear, you'd have to pay a lot of money. And, these are like Xreal's been like the $500 range, like I think they're coming down in price. And I really like the idea that my eyes aren't fully covered. Like I always struggle with VR headsets because I just sweat. And then there's a whole prescription insert problem, which still exists with the AR glasses. But it's like, to me, that's the limitation. What's your experience with these?
My experience with VR headsets, I have the Meta Quest 3 at home. I use it to work out with the Supernatural app. And
nice.
My biggest thing is like, it's just heavy. It's bulky. Like at the end of the day, like when I'm done using it, I can almost feel an ache in the base of my skull. And I'm like, that's not necessarily conducive to the rest of my workday, because then I get a headache. With the XR glasses, because I do have a pair at home, I'm able to build a screen. I'm able to, either tune out the world for the most part, because I can turn on and off the like background. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's so much better in my opinion, and it just feels so much more comfortable to wear. So
that's my big problem with VR, is that I end up being uncomfortable and sweating and the extra weight, and that's why I'm AR is probably a stretch to call a pair of glasses just a display AR, but there is some positional sensing in there. So even though it's an external device doing all the work with the Beam Pro, like I still think that's the better solution. If you really want, in fact, the Xreal Air 2 that I have come with these little shutters, like covers that you can cover. So if you're on an airplane and you are watching a movie, the only light you'll see is from the peripheral, which is fine.
Nice.
And it's still high contrast enough that it doesn't like interfere, especially, they dim the lights on the airplanes anyway, most of the time at night. So I don't know. I've had a good experience with Xreal. And so I'm excited to see that they have a new product out. In fact, you know what? I actually think they sent me the specs, so maybe we'll find the pricing in there.
I believe it's...
In the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the category in general. Like, you were going to talk, obviously, about the ones you have here in a second, and they're kind of similar, right?
Yeah.
So, like, do you think this is a viable category or product to kind of hold us over? Like, I think Meta, the Meta Ray-Bans are basically more along the lines of... there's no display, right?
Yeah, it's like a weird like mix, because like my Ray-Ban Metas, I've had 2 pairs over the past year, because I lost the first pair, and fun fact, they do not come with location tracking. So rest in peace, my first pair in the Uber car. I'm sure that they found a better home, but like I feel like they're almost gimmicky, but I find myself pulling them out and using them more often than not, because they have the built-in audio, and especially as a female, I feel a lot more comfortable wearing that and listening to my music and being able to hear, the busy New York City streets around me versus like, is that what it is?
Yeah, so that's the one.
Oh, that is so cool.
So the one with the eye installed, those of you watching on Patreon might be able to see this on my fold here. But yeah, so, you know, it's modular. I don't see any other photos here, but yeah. So I have specs here as well. So let's see what we can find there, because that, you know, I have a feeling that we'll possibly have pricing on here. But yeah, my take is like, it's like, if you don't want to go all the way to VR, which is obviously to me, I just don't like it. You can then go to, you know, this kind of setup, which is AR. So there's pure AR, like, which is what, you know, I mentioned spectacles would be, like the Snap stuff.
Yeah.
Or like that crazy Orion thing that, you know, Meta showed, right?
Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. That's where we're going. But right now with Xreal and the product we're about to talk about in a second, you can get there with the assistance of an external device or your phone or whatever, and it's a much more comfortable experience. And then if you want to go even more lightweight and not have a display, you've got Meta Ray-Bans and the whole ecosystem of, you know, Huawei did a pair as well that had like speakers in the stems. It was just basically an audio device with sunglasses.
I think Solos did a pair too.
Yeah,
they've got a
bunch of them did.
Too. So there's multiple options.
So look at how thin and light these are.
Oh my gosh,
right?
That is
like
so much.
They are very sexy. And I think this is kind of why Xreal is a startup based in China, but they're the leader. And this is running, you know, X1, right? So that's actually also pretty exciting because, you know, they have, you know, more processing power in the glasses now. So they're starting to become really smart and not just displays, which I think is pretty cool. Let's see if we can find the pricing.
Like, I just love how thin, and they said that it's more lightweight compared to its predecessor too. And like, they're not heavy to begin with. Like
$499.
Yeah.
So that's for the non-pro. And then the pro, is there pricing for the pro? Oh yeah, there we go. $599.
Yeah, $599.
And then is there pricing for the I? I don't know. It's hard to tell. But yeah, I think this is very cool. So the Eye has 12 megapixel camera, does 1080p videos, 60 frames per second, which is good for action shots. I don't think it's like going to be blowing your mind anyway, anytime soon, but I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, so 57-degree field of view. I don't know what the Vision Pro does. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not as much, but seems okay. So yeah, I'm excited about these. And you tried a pair out that came out earlier this year. Tell us about that.
Yes, I did. So I actually brought them with me today. These are the Viture Pro XR glasses. Here, I'll let you.
I'm just going to put them a little closer to the camera.
Yeah, they're not as sexy as the Xreals that we just saw.
But honestly, they're very similar to my Air.
Yeah,
my Air
very similar.
Very nice. I like the look of these.
I haven't shown you the coolest part yet.
Okay,
so
what's the coolest part?
The Xreals, for those with myopia or those of us like me who are blind without our contacts, you have to ship out your prescription lenses to like be able to see in them, right?
Right.
These actually have it built in up to negative 5.0. And so you can adjust it per glass, like per eye.
So basically, if you're just normally wearing reading glasses, you're good.
Yes.
Like if you have a special prescription, I'm at the edge, so I'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
Because my eye will compensate for it.
My eyes do not.
And you know, so this is the thing. You're touching on something that I think is the biggest problem I have with all of these products right now. And I think I've complained about this on the podcast before. It's the problem where, and you tell me what you think, but it's the problem where nobody's adopted some kind of standardized prescription insert system.
Yes.
And that needs to get standardized, like USB Type-C. And I'm hoping that going forward, as we get more and more down the road with these and the technology evolves, either that it's automatic, like you put them on and it adjusts to your eye automatically. Like it can see it, you know, but that would require such complex mechanisms and stuff. I think we're going to have prescriptions for a while. And what would be great is that, you know, some kind of regulatory panel somewhere out there, like maybe the European Union says, hey, you got to standardize this, because like I tried to look at getting the Xreal prescription insert, and it was going to be $256. And I'm like,
oh God.
I'm not paying that for a review unit that clearly is now obsolete because a new product came out, and I don't know if they're compatible. I hope so. But at least some manufacturers think are trying to keep things compatible within their brand. Like I'm sure Meta is doing that to some extent. I know Apple's probably going to do that because, but I think that's the problem. And, for us reviewers, that's going to be a real issue because none of us have perfect eyesight anymore. And how do you review these without getting the prescription stuff for free from the company that wants you to review it?
And that's a major problem for me. And I mean, we both wear some kind of lens corrective prescription. And I run into a big problem where if I'm wearing my glasses, I don't want to put this stuff on.
Yeah.
I have to put in my contacts to even use most of the stuff. Now, thankfully with the Viture Pros, I think it's my one eye's like 6.0 flat and the other is 6.50. So there's obviously, it's not going to do it all the way.
Right. But it's close enough.
It's close enough that I can use it for the most part.
And you see a pretty clear, thing. Right?
Yeah, like the right eye will compensate for the left eye's blurriness. So, I mean, there is a benefit to that. But in terms of the Xreal, it's like you said, that's an extra $250. I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to pay.
I mean, they make it easy. I think they have like a partner, like a well-known, optical partner. And you send it in and you send your prescription and they send it back or whatever. And you don't have to send in the glasses. You send in your prescription.
But the other concern is with that too, and I'm not like trying to knock on Xreal. I think what they've come out is incredible, especially with the new X1 chip. But like, what happens if I've got my contacts in and then I want to use them? I have to pull out my contacts and then I have to do that. Like, at least with the Viture Pros, like when I'm using them, I can just automatically adjust on the fly.
You can change it. I mean, the insert is easy to remove on the Xreal, so it's not too difficult.
Okay.
But I think I don't like contacts and I'm not going to wear them because I know some of you are going to say, yeah, we'll just get contacts. Yeah, but that doesn't solve the problem.
No, it only complicates things.
So I don't know. I think this is an interesting category to watch out. And, the fact that you can adjust them and they're not bulky too. This is it's pretty amazing that they have the mechanism built in and they're not too bulky.
Yeah, it's nice. And the only thing I would note is that because I'm testing these for Forbes right now, and the only thing I would note is that they do sometimes get hot on the sides because of the processor. Like you're putting out.
So these actually have the compute power on them.
I believe they have the compute power in them, and like they need specialized docks for the Nintendo Switch. They all do.
Yeah, I saw that you have like the connector on the end here is very interesting.
Yeah, that's
because on the Xreal it's just USB-C on the end. So it's got a bunch of pins.
It comes with like a specialized cable.
It's magnetic,
and there's like a little, it's magnetic. So like I can just attach it like that. And then this little piece right here keeps like my hair from getting caught in it, which is huge.
Oh, that's really cool.
Bushy curly hair doesn't work well with XR glasses sometimes.
Right on. So it's funny because until you mentioned those, I hadn't heard about them at all. They flew right under my radar.
Yeah, I went to a press conference a few months back and saw them there. And I was like, yeah, I'll try them. And honestly, I am so lazy that during the day when I don't even want to like put my Nintendo Switch on my TV, I just literally toss these on and just like lay on the couch and
play for a while.
Yeah, it's honestly been a game changer for me. And they connect to computers too.
Right. So how does it what you see when you move is what you see, or does it let you keep a display in one spot?
The glasses, when I'm gaming with the Nintendo Switch, like it'll stay stationary. So when I move, it moves with me.
You, yeah.
So
that's how the Xreal work by default if you don't have the Beam Pro.
Yeah, and then for the computer display, you'll need a specialized display port. There's a word for it, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but you can change it to like an ultra wide, or you can have like 3 different displays, or like 1 landscape, 2 portrait. I mean, there's so many different options to choose
that's
from.
very cool.
And it can go up to 135 inches in terms of adjustability.
Wow.
So you can get like a really, really big screen, which I also love.
Yeah. So I think, those two are going to merge. We're going to see eventually more and more compute will offload to the actual glasses themselves while they stay light and thin. And they won't just be dumb displays. And then we're going to also see more and more of them with cameras either modular or, permanently installed. And then, Ray-Ban Metas basically will look like Ray-Ban Metas, but have a display instead of just the cameras and the earbud, like the sound. So I think that's where we're going.
I agree.
And I'm on board. I think to me, that's not going to replace my phone the same way I still have a laptop. But I think that it's going to complement my phone in many ways, because being able to just walk down the street, follow map directions. Like, to me, I know it's kind of scary, but I think this is a really good use case of AR. Is we were at a briefing earlier. There's a bunch of media there. I know a lot of them. I recognize them. I know who they are. But there's other people who I've seen and interacted with, and I can't remember who they are. And maybe having it connected to LinkedIn so that it matches their photo on LinkedIn to the camera's view and puts like a little bubble over their head saying, James, CNN,
That would be incredible.
That's kind of what, to me, AR is for. That's what I want out of AR. I want navigational aids. Like, say you're driving a classic car. Why would you make the classic car, modify it, make it behave like a modern car by putting a head unit with Android Auto and CarPlay, when you can just wear Xreals or Viture Pros and just drive?
Well, and on that vein too, I also have the Amazon Echo frames at home, and I should have brought them with me today. And
How are those?
They're interesting because I realize it's a very bland word, but as an example, I can have it read messages back to me, and I don't even have to look at my phone. And that was just a cool, nifty trick that I stumbled upon when I was out in Seattle for a press trip. And I was just like, I don't even have to check my phone now. This is incredible. Like, I don't even have to be glued to my phone. What is this like? And being able to, you're talking about these Google Maps integrations or like LinkedIn integrations, even that, like if it can help increase your workflow and your productivity, I am all here for it, because these should be streamlined anyway.
Yeah. And the thing I think that's okay with that, and again, this is arguable, right? Some people are going to be bad because you're doing facial recognition on people in the glasses. But I'm like, look, it's already happening anyway. Like, airports now, and then on the street, every CCTV camera that's out there for surveillance has facial recognition. That's why your Nest Cam does only records the events with people in them and stuff. So my point is, like, you already put your foot on LinkedIn. You've decided to do that. LinkedIn's a good database for me to figure out who you are professionally. So that would be kind of the killer app for me in many ways, because I'm not very good with people's faces and names. It takes me a few times to like, go, okay, this is Rebecca. Now I know you.
Exactly.
After all these years. No, just kidding.
No, I do the same thing, because I'll just be like, I know this person. I've met them before. And I'm like, I feel so embarrassed. I don't remember their name, just because there's so many people in our industry too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like, as like me being a jerk. It's just like the way my brain works. Yeah. So, so the Viture, your review's not up yet, but I put up the Tom's Guide one, which I thought was pretty interesting and pretty complete.
I really liked his review.
Yeah, so did I. For the Xreal One, stay tuned. I'll try to figure out more about this Xreal Eye. Does it work on older glasses? Etc. And pricing, because I don't know right now. Continuing the XR, VR, AR, MR discussion, Samsung is supposedly going to be giving us potentially a glance at some XR glasses at Unpacked sometime in January, potentially. I don't know whenever the next Unpacked is going to be. So I think they teased that yesterday or the day before.
Something has been teased with XR, and I'm losing my mind over
So definitely is going to match. Okay, so it looks like it's rumored for January. It's going to be at the Galaxy S25 launch event, whenever that is, January presumably. But the exciting thing is we're getting XR. What do they mean by that? Do you think they're going to do Vision Pro, like full-on VR type and invasive? I like to call it invasive instead of immersive, because I hate it.
Yeah, it's very
how about, is that going to be that, or is it going to be more AR like Xreal and Viture? What do you think?
I'd like to think that Samsung is going to buck the trend versus like the Apple Vision Pro. I'd like to think that they're going to go.
It'll be way more affordable. If they're smart,
yes,
it'll be $1,000.
Yeah, because I know so many people talked about before, but $3,500 for a headset, absolutely not. I'm sorry. But like Samsung has this unique opportunity where they can come in at a more affordable price point and get people really excited about it, because I'm sure it'll have like Bixby and Google integrations, and I'm so excited for this sneak peek if we get one.
Yeah, it's too late now, but if you're listening, Samsung, please make these AR. Please don't cover my face like a face hugger. I'm done with the face huggers. Okay. Like to me, VR is a subset of AR. It's AR with your with your hands over your eyes.
Yes.
So find a way to make that happen so that it doesn't feel like I'm wearing a pair of ski goggles. Ideally make it feel like I'm wearing maybe at best a pair of swim goggles. That would be cool.
That would
But just glasses. Everybody loves glasses. Glasses are cool. They make you look smart. I know. I've worn them for my whole life. That's why I'm smarter. Clearly.
You are the expert here.
No,
just saying. You are the expert.
I'm just being silly. But related to that, there's rumors, or maybe I think Tim Cook might have actually confirmed it, that Apple has stopped production temporarily, potentially, on Vision Pro. So obviously it's not selling as well as it, as they wanted. I not a great surprise there. I didn't $3,500.
It's so expensive. Like if I'm gonna have $3,500 for something, like I'm no offense to Apple, like I'm not gonna spend it on that.
No, but I mean, even some of our creator friends that we have that love it, that got a review unit from Apple. A few of them went out and bought it, but most of them got review units from Apple. Like they love it. And I understand it because it's really good apparently. But at the same time, I'm like, no, like this is way too early in the development stage. And also they were too ambitious. I think having the creepy pass through of your eyes through the, because of the external display, you remove all that. Like Quest doesn't have any of that. And then the price can drop to like, even if it had the premium of paying of Apple for the beautiful material, build quality, and if they had obviously the eye tracking and the head tracking is top notch, you can do the gestures and stuff, like all of that is probably better than the competition. But if you had given us that, say for $2,000 or $1,799, then without the stupid, like make you look like a, I don't know, it's creepy as F. Like if I'd done that, like basically what people think the Vision non-pros will be when they come out in 2 years or whenever, if they'd started with that, I think it would have been really smart.
Agreed. And I know there's been like rumors. I mean, obviously Apple keeps everything very tight to its chest. And I've heard rumors that there's like reviewing and testing like more affordable options, or even going into the glasses space. I mean, who knows with Apple? They've surprised us before.
Look, if Apple was smart right now, they'd come out with a Meta Ray-Ban competitor that would smack that down and make it a million times better. They have the ecosystem, they have the iPhone, they have the Apple Watch. Imagine you wear your Apple glasses and there's just a very basic display like Google used to have on Glass.
Yeah, Google Glass.
And then you still have the camera. All of a sudden, Apple Watch and glasses, you don't need your phone anymore. You have a camera now.
Exactly. Like you could make one ecosystem.
Your watch has 4G, connects wirelessly to the glasses. Little notification pops up, and then you can take photos and videos anytime you want. That's it. That's the use case. Nothing more. Nothing else.
Very simple, but very effective.
And make it sexy, super light, super thin, super beautiful. And then because your display would be, I don't know. They might make it simple enough that you can just get a regular prescription, like you would get a regular prescription. You can bring them into your iStore and they can accommodate it. Because
oh my gosh, if they could do that.
That's better than inserts in my opinion, because inserts add, weight and add complexity and bulk too. That's why, some of the old Xreal glasses, I'll do this for the Patreons who are watching on video, but it's like you're wearing them like this, right? They protrude so far out that's like they match the tip of your nose. Yep. Whereas the new ones, and I think these guys, and I think the ones that I have, the Air, are much closer to your face.
Yeah, and with these you can just pull them out and swap them out.
Put them on for a second. I want to see what it looks like.
Let me put those back. So
look at that. Yeah. They're not sitting on the tip of your nose. See what I'm saying? Like there's nose protruding, whereas some of the early ones, like you literally, there was your nose down here. Yeah, your nose disappeared. So what does that tell us at this topic production? I mean, I'm not surprised, but they started selling in some foreign countries. So like that news came out yesterday. I can't remember the country now.
South Korea and the United Arab Emirates.
So my point is, it's not like they're not making them and they're not selling them. They're stopping production for probably some time because they probably have leftover stock. And honestly, I'm not sure Apple's too concerned about this. I know they're probably disappointed it's not meeting the numbers they wanted, but at the same time, it's a tough sell at $3,500. They should have known that.
And I mean, even the reaction, remember when they announced it, the reaction, that the crowd going, oh my gosh. Like, yeah. It's a tough pill to swallow.
I mean, Apple, you've already like turned phones into $1,000 things with the iPhone 10 back in the day. And now we're just like not even caring that a phone is $1,000. So you've managed to kind of like make that happen industry wide, but I think you went a little too far. With love from Miriam.
And friendly reminder too, the Meta Quest is only around $500 compared to the $3,500.
Yeah, and I mean, and how much is the 3S?
I think it's like $399, $399.
That's what I'm talking about. Do you remember the previous Quest, whatever, the cheap one?
Yeah.
I have that one.
Okay.
And I liked it. I mean, other than the face hugger thing.
Yeah, the face hugger. Yeah.
Oh, man. I love Alien, the movie is great, but no face huggers. Okay, so Intel CEO steps down or gets fired or retires, depending who you talk to. You know, I feel bad for the guy because honestly, I thought he was great. He didn't do well for the company though, and maybe that's why, some people drove him out, or he decided, you know what, let's just get out of here before it gets worse or whatever. I don't know.
I think it's both good and bad. I mean, there's always two sides to every story, and we're not hearing the full story here. We're just getting this news announcement that, the rumor has it they basically said, you either leave or we make you leave.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that happens. If you've worked in any kind of corporate environment, it's always kind of a bit of a blur as to whether you're fired or you leave on your own or
very Succession style.
Yeah. Anyway, but Pat Gelsinger, I thought I liked him as a leader. I don't know. I don't follow Intel much because his laptops is not really, kind of is my beat, but not really. And I'm more like on the ARM side of compute. So, but I think that, clearly Intel's been in trouble, and I don't think it's necessarily his. I think he kind of inherited it.
He did.
And he wasn't able to rectify it. And, yeah, it's interesting. But the reason I brought this up, because I want your thoughts on this, is how do you feel about Intel? Like, and let me give you some context on my question. Like, now that we have Snapdragon X Elite and X Plus, and we're, starting to get some competition from AMD and NVIDIA, of course, and battery life and, performance per watt, all that stuff. Like basically, Apple with the M chips has shown us that you can make laptops and computers, pro or not, that consume very little power, have incredible battery life, yet give you incredible performance at the same time. Qualcomm is showing us that too with ARM-based X Elites and X Plus. And clearly, Intel's done their homework, and Lunar Lake is showing some good progress in that direction. Now, that's kind of late in the game is what I'm thinking. Like, do you feel that way too?
It's late in the game, and I'm also going to go out on a limb with a little personal anecdote here. Remember when the Intel 14th generation chipsets were faulty?
Yeah.
And they refused to acknowledge that for the longest time?
Yeah.
Like, my husband was personally affected by that.
Wow.
He had a 14th generation chipset, and his brand new computer kept on blue screening on him. And so we were affected by that. And I know as a consumer, that's a huge loss of trust. And so that's also in the background plaguing this departure. I mean, there's no way it's not, because people were upset. People were complaining because all of a sudden this like physical degradation over time, like it's
that's
permanent.
Not cool. Yeah.
It's not cool.
It's interesting to me because, I feel like I think Lunar Lake is really impressive. Considering it's still x86. But if you look at the architecture, you look at how it's designed, it's very much designed like a system on a chip on a phone would be, where a lot of it, like it's a bunch of different subsystems, and a lot of it is not x86. Like x86 is just the CPU part. It's the small amount of the whole platform. And also they're using multiple chips at different nanometer sizes. It's very interesting how it's all put together, but it's the way to go. And my question is, so where do you get to the point, and that's kind of the joke as I've always made, is that where do you get to the point where the x86 is like that one core that you left in there for legacy, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And it's
we're getting
all
to that
ARM,
point.
and it's all like ultra high performance modern compute stuff, NPUs and GPUs and ARM CPUs. Like when are we? You know, how far are they from that? And then did you still call it x86 at that point? Like, and you know, the reason I'm saying that is because x86 architecture for Intel was a bit of, or is a bit of a religion. It's like they got rid of Xscale, their ARM branch, at the worst possible time. I think it was 2010 or sometime in the first decade of the century here. And everybody was scratching their heads going like, wait, mobile is ARM. ARM, mobile's getting huge. Why would you get rid of your ARM division? And then they tried that Atom stuff on phones. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it just was a disaster because x86 is not really optimal for this stuff. So I thought it was really interesting that now they kind of, I feel like they're, you know, still in the cult of x86, like they want to maintain that image, but I think they're backpedaling in the sense that their chips are changing and mimicking what Apple and Qualcomm are doing. And it's obviously paying off. Battery life is really great in Lunar Lake. And performance is really good too. But I feel like, why don't you just bite the bullet and go ARM? Like you can still make x86 server chips and whatever else for high performance gaming. Like there's applications for that. But for the light and thin?
Now is not the time to play it safe, especially it's like you mentioned, you've got Snapdragon, you've got AMD, you've got this juggernaut NVIDIA coming out. Like
rumors of them making a CPU soon.
Exactly. You need to just go all in, throw everything that you can at it to stay relevant.
I think Pat's leaving is in part related to them not really getting that stuff done in time and properly. And thankfully, you know, I had written off Intel, honestly, until Lunar Lake. I was like, you're done. You're done because Snapdragon is going to eat your lunch because Qualcomm, like, you know, think about this. The number of laptops sold worldwide versus phones. And, you know, we know MediaTek is a bigger market share than Qualcomm does overall because of the, you know, the budget and the mid-range, although their flagship chips are awesome. But you were talking about billions versus millions, right? Like, like the number. So like Intel already there has, you know, a kind of as a disadvantage. So I'm like, that's why I'm like, you need, So I personally am not part of the cult of x86. And if Intel decides to pivot and suddenly give us like an ARM chip, I'm in. I'm not going to be mad. You know, if it gives you an edge, work with, work with Samsung, work with MediaTek, make yourself an ARM chip. And speaking of which, I wouldn't be surprised that if the next year or so, you know, MediaTek already has the Companion series of chips for their Chromebooks. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Windows compatible MediaTek, you know, laptop chip.
I've been waiting
in the next year or two.
I've been waiting for that for so long.
It's going to happen. Everybody's playing that game now, you know, and, you know, based on my experience, like I have a few X Elite and X Plus laptops now. I've got the Asus, one of the VivoBooks with the X Elite. It's not my favorite because it's a bigger laptop. It's like a 15-incher. But I also have the ProArt tablet with an X Plus in it. And it's really beautiful. And then my favorite is the Lenovo Yoga, what is it, X7, whatever, the X Elite. That one feels to me the most like a MacBook since I'm a MacBook user. And on the Lunar Lake side, I only have one, and it's the Asus ZenBook 14. And oh my God, it's so nice.
Is that the S14?
So good, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love
the one that has the ceramic. I'll show it to you. I have it here. It's unfortunately buried under the camera, and I can't move the camera.
Totally fine.
Hi, camera. Hi, watchers on Patreon. Right below you, right below the fullness recording is my buried in the bag is my laptop. It's the ceramic, you know, finished thing. Yeah, it's nice.
I'm in love. I've got the S13. I've got the last gen at home, and it's beautiful too.
Yeah. So the point is, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I want Intel to do better or go away. Just figure it out.
I'm hopeful that they will figure it out, but I'm sad that it will not be under Pat because I do think that he was doing he inherited something bad. Like you said, it was a tough situation from the get-go.
Yeah. I just thought he'd stick around to try to fix it somehow.
Agreed.
Because that was the vibe I was getting from him. All right. talk about phones. OnePlus 13 video teaser from OnePlus alongside a photo they sent us, the media, to share with you. I will probably make that the main photo for this week's podcast of the OnePlus 13 colors. Now, remember, you and I have all talked about this. If you're listening to the show for a few weeks or months or years, you know that I'm on top of this stuff. When a phone comes out in China first, I give you all the deets, even though technically the phone doesn't exist in the West yet. It's been out in China for a while, right after they announced the 8 Elite chip in Maui a few weeks ago. So we covered it on the previous show, so the colors are no surprises to anyone. But now they're official. We know the 3 colors: blue, white, and what's the other one? Some kind of slate.
Yeah,
color.
some kind of slate gray, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, they look very pretty, and I can't wait to get the blue. And I already told the PR people, blue it is for my review unit, please. Let's see what happens. But also, I hinted to that a few weeks back. So I don't know if you're familiar with the OnePlus Ace series. Probably not. Ace is China only, and Ace is what we know as the R series. So last year, we got the OnePlus 12 in China. Yep. Then we got the OnePlus Ace 3. And the OnePlus Ace 3 became the OnePlus 12R for us when it came out together.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So that's why you pay attention to China and the Ace, because when you see what the Ace is, you know it's going to be the next R. So the Ace 5 is out because they skipped 4, because 4 is an unlucky number. So Ace 5 is not out, but I think we have all the specs. And now we're hearing rumors that, yes, the Ace 5 is the OnePlus 13R. And yes, the rumors are the OnePlus 13R is coming to the West and to the US like the 12R last year. And, the 13 is going to be awesome. It's going to be a flagship phone. But the 13R gets you 80% of the way for like 60% of the price, which is really amazing.
That's what I love about like the OnePlus R lineup, though. It's like you said, you get these powerful features and these really solid software integrations, and you're not spending like thousands of dollars.
Exactly. So the specs have leaked, and they're identical to the specs we already have seen leaked for the Ace 5. And so we're talking the industrial design might actually be closer to the old design, like the 12R and the 12, but that's not confirmed. They might tweak it. Because it's PBK Group. They have the horsepower to just like change a phone's design on a whim. But yeah, Snapdragon 8 Gen 3.
Yes.
Which is going to be for a $600 phone, insane.
That's
and then, beautiful. It's actually a 1220 display, which I call them that. It's not exactly the resolution, but it's between 1080p and 1440 Quad HD, which is like a common thing on Chinese phones. Like the 1220 something pixel width is becoming kind of like the affordable flagship resolution beyond 1080p. And then cameras, we're not looking at too much of a change versus last year, so don't be too excited about that. But the battery is going to be freaking huge.
Yeah, can we talk about this battery?
Yeah. So I don't know if you noticed, I don't know if you follow this, Rebecca, because it's kind of China centric. But since the MediaTek announced their Dimensity 9400 and then Qualcomm the 8 Elite, we've seen a slew of Chinese phones come out, and some of them are flagships like the Oppo Find X8 series, but some of them are more mid-range and stuff. And all of them have one thing in common for this year. All of them close to 6,000 milliamp hour battery. This is becoming the standard for Android. So this is not surprising, but 6,000 milliamp hour on the 13R supposedly. It was 5,500 last year, which was one of the reasons it was such a great phone. The battery life kept going and going. But here's the thing, like the 13, I can't remember the exact specs on the 13 right now, but I think it's 5,800 or something. So it's like, close.
It's close.
And it's like that's normal. That's even the Find X8 non-Pro, which is the smaller physical phone, has like a 5,700 or something. And of course, wireless charging on all of these phones, most of them anyway. This will probably have no wireless charging on the 13R, so don't get too excited. Last year it didn't have it. I don't see it coming. They're going to cut corners somewhere, and that's going to be one of them. But at the same time, the 13, of course, will have wireless, and a lot more phones have wireless charging in China now, which is exciting. It's interesting because China has always been like no wireless charging for a long time, and then we were like all complaining. But then when they did it at 50 watt. Like no messing about.
Yeah.
Like they started off really, really strong. And you need a special charger for that, obviously. But the good news is that they charge at regular Qi. So they charge at Qi too. So at 15 watt or whatever as well.
Which is crazy because if I read that article correctly, they started off with 50 and this 13R is going up to 80 watt charging, which is
but that's wired, right? Because it doesn't have wireless. But I'm talking about the 50 for wireless, which the 13 is probably going to have based on the Chinese specs.
Which is great.
It's like, same with the Oppo that has 50 watt. Almost every Chinese flagship that came out in the last year has 50 watt wireless. And at least 80 watt wired, if not sometimes 100, 120. We've seen 240.
Which is
wired,
incredible.
9 minutes from 0 to 100. 9.
I
have tested it with the Realme, the only phone I have that's 240 watt. It takes me longer to shower than it takes to charge the phone, and I'm not a slow showerer.
Oh my God, that's incredible, though.
Yeah. And it doesn't get hot.
And it doesn't get hot. Like that's the thing. Like ever since like our electrical accident, it was a small outlet fire. Yeah. Like I'm always like super worried about that. Like if I plug this in and it charges, is it gonna cause problems? And the fact that it doesn't even get warm, like that's just mind-blowing.
I mean, the brick they both got warm, but not like the phone did not get as warm as some regular phones. Like it didn't get warmer than an iPhone charging at 25 watt.
That is,
you know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
Like, and the charging brick also, it felt warm, yes, but it didn't feel like, how sometimes like you run benchmarks on a phone and like you really feel it's hot, not warm, it's hot. It's not hot at 240 watt. That's the thing that blows my mind.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how they do it. I mean, they, silicon carbide batteries is how they do it. But yeah, so also speaking of, we're running down things that are kind of like US and Western markets centric here with the 13R, but Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. I missed this last week, by the way. Sorry for being a week behind on this, but I think it's important enough. There's an entire video leak of somebody got their hands on the S25 Ultra, and you can see it up close and personal.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
So what stands out is that it looks a lot like the S24 Ultra, which is recording this, by the way, for those of you on Patreon. But it has rounded corners slightly, not like iPhone super rounded corners, but slightly round.
Oh my gosh, that's like a huge game changer because I'm looking also at my S24 Ultra.
It's a bit of a weapon.
Yeah, this thing, I feel like I'm hauling around.
But I personally love the squares, like the Red Magic is also like super rectangular, like monolith, 2001: A Space Odyssey. But I have to say, like, watch the video and you'll see that it does look really good. It's slight. It's enough to not like hurt you anymore, but still you're not losing screen real estate too much. Like on the iPhone and the Pixels now, especially the 9 series, I feel like it's too much.
I have a silly question here. Like from that video, are we able to like guesstimate the dimensions at this time? Or
it's the same size.
Same size.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's essentially take the current, like it also has the flat top and bottom and the slightly rounded edges, but just corners are rounded off. And then the aesthetic weird black like rim around the Z Fold 6's camera.
Yes.
That has the same aesthetically round finish on the 5 cameras in the back.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, 4 cameras and sensor there.
Yeah.
The 5 round openings in the back. So yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, so anyway, I'm looking forward to the Ultra. It's always one of my favorite phones of the year. I'm not a huge Samsung fan because I'm not a big fan of One UI, but I also know, so for a lot of people, it's the Note replacement, and the Note is like, there are people like my good friend Tim Stevens, who's been a guest on the podcast, who's an automotive journalist, used to be my boss at Engadget. He will never not use a stylus/pen on his phone. And so what's the only option? Unless you want to carry a separate stylus and use a folding phone, you have to go with the S24 Ultra right now and S25 Ultra soon. Yes. So, and you're one of those people.
Yeah.
You're taking notes right now on what? Remarkable?
The Remarkable Paper Pro, yeah.
Do you want to hold it up and show them?
This is my baby. I use
It
it
just looks
all
like
the
a piece
time.
of paper.
It's so nice.
And
Have you
so-
written on this?
No.
Do you
but
want to
I'll-
write on it?
Yeah, sure. I'll try
Okay.
it. You actually like write on your phone too?
Yes, I actually use the stylus, and that's been one of my big beefs with Google and Apple is the fact that it doesn't have the stylus, because especially when I'm at CES, I'm on the go.
Wow, it feels really nice.
It feels just like paper. It's so fancy. Like, yeah, it basically is, the world is your oyster here. And then the other thing that it does too, hold on, I gotta show you this too.
It'll straighten out lines.
It
if you
straightens out
hold the
line
pen down.
too.
Oh, that makes it nice to draw with. Yeah. No, I've been intrigued by it. I'm not a pencil note taker, so for me it's like hard to justify because I feel like if I were to review it, I wouldn't give it justice. Like every time I review the S24 Ultra or any smartphone that has pen support, I always just say, hey, it has pen support. I tried it. It works. And here are some of the features, like with the Galaxy of like the camera shutter and all that. But like when people ask me, well, why does I like to take notes with them? Like, I'm not the person to ask that because I don't,
Well, and not to get like too into the nitty gritty here, but I tend to prefer the S25 Ultra stylus because I'm very particular about my pens due to my hypermobility. And theirs on the Samsung Fold line is like a square shape, and this one is ovular. So
yeah, that's right.
So it's easier for me to grip when I'm like having to jot things. It's just one of those little details that makes
What
it stand
about
out.
circular pens? Do you like them too?
I actually have a grip on my
See
pen
that.
to help me hold it, and I've actually got a brace on my bag over there to help a lot of times too.
With
but
your wrist, yeah.
yeah, it's a whole thing.
All right, so let's talk about a few things before we wrap up here, like really rapidly to just keep you guys in the loop on what's happening around the world. As you know, the Oppo Find X8 series came out. Dimensity 9400, both of them. I have both of them. I covered them extensively on the podcast before. I use them as my main phones in India last month. So anyway, I love them. They're great. They're flagships from Oppo, but they always make an Ultra eventually. It doesn't come out at the same time, and it's generally Snapdragon, so probably going to be 8 Elite. And it's the mother of all camera phones. Remember, I took the previous generation to Antarctica and wrote a story for you for Forbes,
and
right?
I was just, and you were just like, if this could come to the US, this would be an incredible camera.
The bad news is that the Ultra will probably be China only again. Whether I'll get a device or not, I don't know, but they give me the Pro, at least that's close. But what's more exciting is that they're going completely bonkers on the cameras again. So that's kind of what I'm excited about. I'll just bring up the specs here real quick. So these are specs that are leaks, so don't, just take them with a grain of salt. But right now, 6,000 milliamp hour battery, of course, silicon carbide, 80 watt wire and 50 watt wireless. Now this is the same as the Pro so far. It'll be interesting to see how the industrial design changes as well. So we're keeping the 1-inch sensor for the main camera. That's exciting because the Pro obviously doesn't have that. It has a big sensor, but not a 1-inch sensor. Yeah. Now, the big question is, are they going to add variable aperture like Xiaomi has? We don't know. That's not outlined here. But it'll be interesting to see if they match Xiaomi because, the two of them, the Ultra from Xiaomi and the Ultra from Oppo are like head to head. And then we're getting, so we might be getting at least 2 different focal lengths on the main camera, which is good. And then 2 periscope zooms, of course, 3x and 6x, same as last year. I think it looks like an evolution so far of what we have. And of course, 8 Elite instead of Dimensity 9400. So it's not too much here, but enough to kind of keep us interested, right? So that's basically why I want to cover that, because even though, I'm not surprised it's not going to come to the West. They just released the X8 and the X8 Pro for the West. Like, you can go in Germany and buy them, in India and buy them. Like, not in the US, but you can import them. I've used them on T-Mobile and AT&T without any issues. Verizon won't work as usual. But, if, there's no problems with bands. Like, these phones just work. And, Play services, everything's on there. It's just normal stuff. Google Pay, whatever.
Okay, humor me though. How long does the battery life last on these things?
2 days on all of these phones.
Gosh,
most Android flagships today that have 5,500 or more are easily 2 days. Okay. Like you can hammer the camera all day, and that's when you get less than 2 days. And then you can still go for the next half of the next day. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, if you're playing games, that's a different story. I think games are probably going to tax you a little more. But yeah, that's kind of the reality for most Android users today, I think, unless you go for an older phone or a mid-range. And even the mid-rangers, a lot of them have slightly slower processors, slightly lesser display, so they're even more efficient to start with. And a lot of them have even bigger, like the big battery story in China started in the mid-range, like 6,000 was a thing 2 years ago on the mid-range there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah. Well, also India, right? Mid-range is extremely popular in India because price sensitivity, but also because they like their specs. So they try to pick the best they can afford. And they also have a lot of issues with access to stable power in many parts of India. So that's why the fast charging and the large batteries.
It's
because
such a big deal.
if you can charge at 120 watt, you can charge in 20 minutes. That means that imagine your scenario. You've gone all day or maybe 2 days. You're at the end of your battery life. And now you're waiting for the train to take you home. But at home, power is unreliable, or, grandpa and dad have access first to the power bar and you're going to have to wait in line.
Yeah.
So what if you can plug in the station at the train station for 7 minutes
Oh, wow.
out of 20? You're now getting 40% charge. Roughly, you're back in business for an entire day.
That's incredible.
So also, what if the power goes out for a while, right? So I think that's kind of the reason, and I'm not just singling India here. Like, there's all kinds of developing
That happens
countries.
in Jersey all the time.
There you go. Of course, Jersey. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so that's kind of exciting to me. The other thing we have is a bunch of new phones that were announced. One of them was announced a little while back, so I kind of forgot about it. So the K80 Pro from Redmi's flagship. Now, for those of you who are not quite familiar, and maybe Rebecca, you don't know this, but the Xiaomi has 3 brands: Xiaomi, Redmi, and Poco, right? So Xiaomi makes mostly the high-end phones, and Redmi and Poco kind of focus on the mid-range and the affordable flagships, and then the budget as well. And they have different geographies in terms of their kind of like popularity, but they're generally sold in most of the world. And so what happens is Redmi K series is always their flagship. And it's why you pay attention, because we're talking $600, $500 for a flagship. It's like the Realme GT7 Pro, the first 8 Elite phone I got. I have it, and it's amazing, and it only costs $550. Okay,
incredible.
like abroad, like you can't buy here, but it's, again, fully compatible. All the bands work. It's 8 Elite, of course. All the bands work. It's got Google Play. It's got all the good stuff. So that's why the K80 Pro is important, because it's Redmi's answer to making an 8 Elite affordable flagship. It's like the 13R of Redmi, right?
Yeah.
But 8 Elite, not 8 Gen 3. See? Let's see, what are the prices here? And this is where, again, this is China only for now. So it's coming out globally. It always comes out globally. It's just that they release them in China first.
It launches in China and then
Let me give you some pricing. $510 for the 8 Elite.
It's so fun.
Now, remember, in China, a lot of stuff is kind of subsidized by services like Weibo and all the other stuff. So, you kind of sign your life away a little bit. But even if it's at $100, typically is what I say if you want to get a US price. So $610 for a Snapdragon 8 Elite.
Wow. That's
a
great price tag.
And again, you look at the specs. 6,000 milliamp hour versus 5,000 last year on the K70 last year. Yeah, 120 watt charging. Charges fully in 28 minutes. 120 hertz OLED. All that good stuff. Let's see what camera situation is. 15 megapixel main camera with OIS, 8K video, 32 megapixel ultra wide. Is there a telephoto? Oh yeah, of course there's a telephoto. 50 megapixel telephoto, the 5X.
So it's
5X it's a flagship.
It's pretty, it's well rounded. It's
Wi-Fi 7. You can get it up to 16 gigabyte and 1 terabyte.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
So this is my point. It's like that's why to me it's really interesting. Not only a lot of my audience is in India and in other parts of the world where they can get these phones, but it really tells you how you need to understand the trends of what they're doing there in China and in the rest of the world to kind of understand the context for North America and how behind / lopsided our experiences, because we really only get Apple, Samsung, OnePlus, Google, Motorola, right? LG's gone, and then there's small fry, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, K80 Pro, IQ 13, also IQOO, I don't know how you say it. I haven't figured it out. It's been years. I've had some other phones before. I think the last one I got was the 11 2 years ago. They are Vivo's sub-brand of affordable. So there again, we're looking at an affordable flagship. So this is 8 Elite, and
it looks nice. It looks fancy.
I like the industrial design. Lots of good cameras. This article is specifically about the camera experience, but yeah, the IQ 13 is, again, an affordable flagship available globally now. India has it, I think, and a few other places. So check it out. I'll put a link to this camera experience because I assume, Vivo has some really good camera experiences on their mid and high-end phones, and IQ being the affordable sub-brand is starting to inherit some of that. So that's why this GSM Arena article is specifically about the camera. All right, the last thing, and this is going to be, I think, eventually coming globally, but it's China only for now, is the Honor 300. So the reason the Honor 300 matters, it's their mid-ranger. It's their bread and butter. It's like the Reno phones for Oppo. It's like the OnePlus 13R. It's like the, Pixel 8a. It's the mid-range, right, that Honor makes. And, it's out now. And, of course, it being Honor has, access to all the Google stuff, which is great. The big news here is they have a 50 megapixel telephoto, and it's portrait optimized. So it should be fun if you take portraits.
It looks beautiful. Like that. That is I look at that
this,
and I'm like,
I like this camera bump. I don't know if you guys can see it here on the phone, but
it's
an interesting design. The periscope telephoto is 3.8 optical zoom, but it's a 50 megapixel, as I was saying. And then, of course, you got a main sensor with OIS. So this is the Ultra, right? So there's also a Pro and a regular, which are kind of detuned, and I kind of want to focus on that because look at that. This is considered expensive in China for what it is. $577.
What?
Because, well, it's a premium mid-ranger.
I'm just like surprised at the prices here because I'm looking at our $1,000 phones and I'm like, oh man, like $577 is that's an incredible price for what you're getting for this device.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. It's interesting because, look, battery here is a little on the low side for today, 5,300. Oh no! Oh. But the Honor 300, 200, 100 prior to that are very thin. So I'm giving them that. 100-watt wired and 80-watt wireless. Oh, are you ready for 80-watt wireless?
I am down for this because again, like that fast charging will get in a pinch.
Same full HD display, AMOLED, 120 hertz, 4,000 nits. It's like you read these specs and you're like, why can't we get this? Honestly, it's 8 Gen 3. Oh no. So what I'm pointing out to you is this phone is essentially going to be the same as a OnePlus 13R with just a much better camera system. For what was it?
$577.
Oh no! Right?
What a shame!
I know.
My gosh.
So yeah, that's basically the news. It's interesting. Like I used to get some of these phones. Like I used to get all the Renos, which are the mid-ranger Oppos, but they literally come out with a new one every 4 months. I'm not joking.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Reno 13 was just announced last week, and Reno 12 came out in September.
Oh my gosh!
And 11 earlier this year.
That's incredible.
Now they do this. I don't know how they do it.
But didn't you say that they can basically adjust the stuff on the fly?
Yeah, they're Xiaomi basically pioneered this, and DBK Group, which as you know includes Oppo, OnePlus, Vivo, EQ, Realme as well. They followed suit, and what it is I call it parts binning. Is basically you have a bin of parts, you have a bunch of chassis, and you just modularly build your phone. I love that. And if you look, it's totally like that. It's like you'll take a Realme and you'll put it next to, I've got the Realme GT7 Pro, which is their flagship. Yeah. It's essentially Oppo Find X8.
Just with some tweaks.
But some tweaks. And then it's going to be the same as a OnePlus 13, roughly. Because remember, the 13 is more equivalent to the non-Pro of the Find series.
And I feel like it's
So we could one day maybe get a 13 Pro, maybe. With 2 telephotos.
Fingers crossed.
But I don't think the market is ready for that price-wise, and also OnePlus doesn't wants to undercut Samsung and Apple. And if they went that route, they'd be at price they'd undercut the Ultra and the Pro Max, right?
Yes.
Apple.
Oh, absolutely.
But people are not ready for that.
No.
Not in this market.
No. And Americans, the main phone that they purchase anyway is iPhone.
Yeah. And so the Reno comes out often. The V series from Vivo comes out 2 or 3 times a year as well. It's ridiculous. And it's literally, they're like chassis. Like the chassis of the Realme GT7 Pro is identical to the chassis of the Oppo Find X8 Pro. They have the same displays. They have the same chassis shape, same button placement. What's different is the camera systems and the processor. One is 8 Elite, one is 9400.
That has to
Batteries are the same. One doesn't have wireless charging, one does.
So that has to be like also a good point from a sustainability aspect, because they can just reuse everything.
Yeah.
So that's another boon.
And Xiaomi started that, and that's how they have Redmi and Poco now. Like literally some Poco phones are just cosmetic differences. They're actually identical to their Redmi counterparts. Like they just, put slightly different colors and fonts on them.
Same price and everything too?
Same, yeah, similar.
I love it.
And then they have slight tweaks on the OS. Like it's the same OS core, but like the UX is slightly different, but minor.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's really like Poco was kind of created for the Indian market, and Redmi's kind of more Malaysia and like Philippines, Thailand kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Anyway,
all these small details
I know
that make them.
On that note, we should wrap up. Rebecca, tell people where they can find you on the internet, all your various handles, and where you are present online for your work.
Okay, let me try to remember this. I think it's Bex was X is my Instagram. And then you can also find me at Forbes. That's where I currently reside. My day job. It's great. But yeah, Instagram's usually the place to find me these days.
And, Rebecca edits my stories if you see them on Forbes.
She's amazing. I just need to share that with everybody how amazing you are. And she's so knowledgeable. And I just really appreciate her,
I appreciate your appreciating.
Helping our readers.
Does that mean you're also on Threads with the same handle?
Yes. Assume that I'm on Threads too.
Yeah. And
sorry, I sometimes check.
Are you doing Blue Sky now that it's becoming popular?
I need to jump on that. This is gonna sound weird, but I was never really on Twitter either. So
well, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing nowadays. But yeah. So usually Instagram or Threads then for me.
Awesome.
So.
And folks, you know where to find me. I'm at Tankerl, TNKGR. I like the comic book, drop the vowels on every platform. I'm still on the evil X, Twitter, whatever, just because I got some audience there, but I try not to be. They mostly find me on Threads and find me on Blue Sky. I've been on Blue Sky for quite a while, so it's not a new thing for me, but it's really taking off. So, if you want to find me there, find me there. Threads is awesome too. Instagram as well. I'm also on Facebook. For those of you who do that. And then, of course, you'll find the podcast at mobiletechpodcast.com. There's an RSS feed there if you want to subscribe the old school way. But we're also on all the major platforms. So just look for Mobile Tech Podcast with Tankerl, TNKGRL. Drop the vowels again. And you'll find me. It's on Apple, Google, Spotify, everywhere. So if you subscribe, that'd be great. If you're here for the first time because Rebecca's on the show, please subscribe. That'd be great. If your app lets you rate or review the show, please consider doing that. It'd be awesome as well. There's a YouTube channel you can subscribe to as well, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell. Comment. You can comment about the podcast. Mostly it's hands-on videos and some unboxings. I'm not super active. I really need to change that, but hang in there with me. And every now and then I make short as well. So some mobile tech content, some car content. So check it out. And then finally, if you want to help me out, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/Tankerl, like my handle, TNKGRL. So if you want to see a video version of this podcast, that's available on Patreon. You get it a day in advance, which is nice. And for every week that I make a show. And it's $5 a month for that. And then there's other tiers if you want to help me out in other ways. But consider joining the Patreon and watching us on video every week and getting it in advance. And if you don't want to use Patreon, that's fine. There is a way to help out as a one-time donation on PayPal. Look in the show notes. You'll see a link to my PayPal button and give me $5 for a coffee or something. That'd be great. So that's it. I also want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And finally, thanks, Rebecca, for being my guest yet again.
Thank you for inviting me. It was so fun to talk about glasses and what Apple's cooking. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. We'll have you on again. And folks, we'll have a show next week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.